welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something a bit different. We're stepping into a quiet, focused space to radically reframe how we look at self-reflection. Instead of just a passive exercise where we sit around thinking about the past, we're going to turn it into a powerful blueprint for self-discovery and emotional healing. Because honestly, to design a life that actually feels like your own, rather than just defaulting to what society expects of us, you literally have to become the architect of your own mind. Let's get into it. So, here's our roadmap for the explainer today. We're going to cover the blueprint of self-reflection, overcoming self-judgment, architecting your authentic self, enforcing boundaries, the self-forgiveness journey, and finally, mastering coping skills. Okay, part 1, the blueprint of self-reflection. Before we actually build anything, we need to get super clear on what self-reflection really is, because true self-reflection, it isn't just passively dwelling on the past. Notice the words structured and proactive here. It's a highly active, intentional tool that we use to gain clarity, heal emotionally, and set actionable steps toward becoming your ideal, authentic self. It's hard work, sure, but it is absolutely the most rewarding work you can do. And to do this work effectively, we really need to find our wise mind. Picture your emotional mind on one side, where your feelings drive your actions, and your rational mind on the exact opposite side, ruled entirely by cold, hard facts. Well, your wise mind is that beautiful sweet spot right in the middle. We acknowledge and validate our emotions without letting them hijack the whole system, right? We balance them with logic so we can make decisions that are truly aligned with our deepest values. Section 2. Overcoming self-judgment and rumination. Now, before we can build upward using that wise mind, we've got to clear away a massive roadblock, which is intense self-judgment. When that internal critic gets too loud, it severely impairs our ability to reflect constructively. We end up trapped in this toxic cycle of rumination, telling yourself things like, I always mess things up. But we can actively choose self-compassion instead. We can practice reflection instead of rumination. Constructive reflection asks, okay, what can I learn from that experience to make better choices in the future? It completely shifts the focus from punishing yourself to actually growing. So, when you catch yourself ruminating, try playing detective, using a clinical tool called cognitive restructuring. You write down the negative thought. Let's say it's, I'm terrible at my job. And then you objectively map out the facts that actually support it, right alongside the facts that contradict it. You have to ask, is this thought based on hard evidence, or is it just a really harsh opinion? This framework forces you to step outside your raw emotions and find a balanced, realistic perspective. Moving on to Section 3, Architecting Your Authentic Self. With a much clearer mind, we can now use Socratic questioning to really evaluate our long-term vision and personal alignment. And this requires stepping completely away from societal expectations and asking yourself what actually drives you. Who are you when you feel most authentic? What values matter the most to you? How do you want to handle conflict in your relationships? Or what impact do you want to have on the world? Your blueprint has to be uniquely yours, no one else's. And architecting this authentic self, it absolutely requires abandoning a fixed mindset, that place where we're terrified of mistakes and just want to give up when things get hard. Instead, we have to actively cultivate a growth mindset. Ask yourself, what is a mistake I made recently and what did I actually learn from it? Or even better, what is something I would try right now if I knew for a fact I wouldn't fail? This is the psychological framing that pushes you out of your comfort zone and allows you to build the life you just envisioned. Section 4, Enforcing Your Personal Boundaries. A beautifully designed life needs really strong walls, right? Emotional boundaries are limits established to protect your emotional well-being, because without them, you risk prioritizing everyone else's needs, like, saying yes to that huge weekend project when you're already completely exhausted, to the point where you neglect your own values just to keep the peace. And let me tell you, that structurally weakens everything you're trying to build. Maintaining these boundaries takes ongoing reflection. The materials suggest keeping a reflection journal specifically to process those moments when your limits are tested. So, when a boundary gets crossed, ask yourself, what specifically happened? What emotions did I experience? What could I have done differently to communicate my limit? And what steps will I take to make sure it's respected next time? This takes you straight from feeling frustrated to being strategically prepared. And when it is time to clearly assert those boundaries, you can rely on the FAST skill. F, be fair to yourself and others. A, avoid over-apologizing for simply having a limit. Don't say sorry for having boundaries. S, stick to your core values without compromising. And T, speak the truth honestly and objectively. This simple acronym is a total game changer. It keeps your communication perfectly respectful, but firmly rooted in the life you are architecting. Section 5. The Self-Forgiveness Journey. Now, as we navigate our goals, things are going to break. Mistakes are just inevitable. And self-reflection is an essential component of the self-forgiveness journey here. To practice self-forgiveness, we have to honestly assess our role in a negative outcome without drowning in self-blame. We do this by separating guilt from shame. Guilt is just remorse about a specific action. It's actually helpful because it motivates us to take responsibility and make amends. Shame, though? Shame is a destructive feeling that unfairly convinces us our entire character is fundamentally flawed. We break that paralyzing cycle of shame through self-compassion. Think about it. By actively treating yourself with the exact same kindness you would offer a really good friend, you can identify how to make amends and learn valuable lessons to guide your future behavior. It transforms guilt into positive change, promotes deep emotional healing, and ultimately facilitates true self-forgiveness. Finally, Section 6, Mastering Your Coping Skills. To keep our blueprint intact when the unavoidable storms of stress hit, we absolutely need daily cognitive coping skills. And a big part of that is using reflection prompts to actively challenge irrational thoughts. Notice things like all or nothing thinking, where one bad meeting makes you believe you're entirely incompetent, or catastrophic thinking, where one unreturned text spirals into expecting the absolute worst-case scenario. Recognizing these cognitive distortions allows you to reframe them in real time. When anxiety does hit, it is incredibly helpful to map out what is within your control versus what is totally outside of it. Practice radical acceptance for what you just cannot change and apply targeted coping skills to what you can. And whether you're using deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, or DBT skills like opposite action, you should always reflect on how your body felt before and after the exercise, what challenges you faced, and how you overcame them to really monitor your progress. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to just sit with this core truth for a second. Give yourself permission to reflect about what you want. Sometimes the biggest barrier to personal growth isn't a lack of tools at all. It's just a lack of permission. Designing a resilient, authentic life starts by giving yourself the absolute authority to want something better, and then doing the inner work to actually build it. So, I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought. What legacy do you want to leave behind? Consider this in your own quiet moments of reflection this week. Make sure that the life you are building day by day, thought by thought, is truly yours. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep reflecting and keep growing.